Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Sunday, January the 6th, 2019, and also solar eclipse day. Happened at midnight, I think, right after midnight. So lots of interesting astrology around that. I just thought I'd mention that. I'm joined by my good friends Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger. And tonight we're going to talk about something, we kind of talked a little bit about it off camera. So your words transmit. It's more than that too, isn't it? It's more than just our words, but our words do transmit and serving a higher vibrational purpose than explaining or labeling. This was one of your nudges, BZ.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all kinds of ways to look at this. We all are transmitters and receivers on lots of different levels. What I'm experiencing in sometimes very visceral ways is communication on a lot of different levels of me. Voice, of course, the words that we speak.
Okay.
It's just that there's so much coming in and going out at all times. I mean, there's an entire industry that goes that's out there based on body language. That's a transmission of sorts too. So there's all sorts of things, but we're going to talk specifically about our words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's what's the term? Big honking octopus. Otherwise, so this is one little tiny part.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and to make it that much more difficult is that not everyone really has felt into enough, in my opinion, yet, including myself, and that is that we all have different experiences of words. Words are more than just definitions in a dictionary. Words are how a person perceives words has a lot to do with how they have experienced those words. Mm-hmm. Hi, Keegan. Keegan!
As I hear talk of transmitting, so I think that's my cue.
Hello, friend!
Camera.
Oh, my.
So happy to see you today. He wants us to see his heart.
Hi, sweetie pie.
Yeah, the other girls. Okay. Yeah. I have a very big lap, but I don't think it's quite that big.
So funny.
Yeah, and one of the things that we'll play, as we talked a little bit about off camera, we'll play in some of the more constrictive kind of flows of this with the words, but the nudge came in was to play with the realization that your words are transmitting, and that it's not just for labeling something, or explaining something, or describing something, right? Mm-hmm. Certainly in the old linear way that we would have thought of it. So, that's a car. So that's a label and the beginning of a description. And we play with this a bit on a broader level, with encountering something, connecting with something, being subject to one another with something. Mm-hmm. So right now, this is probably a perfect time, even though this nudge came in a little bit of time ago, to play with this, because you'll get really quick demonstrative feedback when you're with all the energies coming in and all the energies that are running in everyone's field right now and expanding.
Yes.
You'll get instant feedback if you are using words and holding the thought and then transmitting it into words, so that you're again trying to, this isn't quite accurate, but it's close as a word picture, pigeonholing things, as opposed to being present with what energy is going on, what energy exchange, either if it's just yourself, talking to yourself, sometimes you kind of have this loop that's, or you're talking to someone else, you're having, maybe you're one-on-one with someone, or at home and the family's around, or whatever it is, or, you're at work, or you're in the store, or whatever is going on. You'll get an immediate feedback loop, not only in a physical level, but on all of your body's level. You'll actually get the feedback loop both directions. So you'll get a enhancing of the flow and the ease and the comfort and the connection and communication if you're going to the expansive side, and rather than going into the old groove side. And you'll get, isn't quite accurate to say the opposite, but it's a good placeholder to get the opposite. You will get constriction. You'll feel physical constriction in the different parts of your body that are associated with the groove of the words, labeling, explaining. So you can explain something in a way. So here's right here, Sheila, what you're talking about, a little bit of what you're talking about. So you can explain something. I'm explaining something to you. Or you can explain something that, yeah, it was really cool, and I saw this, and I did this, and wow, I noticed that, and, So you can actually take two different beings, and they can explain the exact same thing, like perhaps they read a paragraph, and, I can do something like, I can explain something in two different ways where I'm running the energy. I wouldn't choose to do it for very long, but I could do it for like a minute or so, where I'm running the energy that is in a more constricted way of the explaining something, and then another way to explain it, which would be more expansive. Does that make sense so far?
I'm taking it in. I'm doing a little inner comparison and feeling into what you're saying.
Because think of a word. So if you're saying a bunch of words, they're formed and they're audible. So they're almost in the act of being out there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what do we know about the out there? The out there doesn't get out there until we put it out there. So it's actually the last flow on that path of energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, what you're saying makes sense. I guess I'm not, I just need to hear all of what you're saying, I guess, because there's something not making connection somewhere.
Okay.
But
so if we can play for a moment with just holding the thought form, the energetic envelope that our words transmit, and how they transmit meets. So this is one of the parts to describe kind of the It's an energetic linguistic library. It's a synonym book, a multidimensional, you have Google Translate. This is much beyond that, but it's a multidimensional translate. So if you hold that understanding, if you start to play with that, and that is how you form your words, form your communications and your intention behind them. As that flows, you won't. Well, you might see it actually, but it's like as the words come through you, they go through this, in essence, multidimensional translator, so that you had said, Sheila, that everybody has it's from the way you've experienced things. Everybody has different definitions of, different connotations to, right? All this kind of stuff of words. And what I'm saying is, as we first understand, play with, even kind of noodle around the idea that your words transmit something way beyond, the labeling, which could be part of the definition, part of the connotation, right? And it's beyond that. And that's almost like this, well, it's an energetic translation box in various ways, so that when, it's interesting, you can do it with yourself as well, but when you do it this way, the other person gets a translation and gets a purity of the translation, not based so much on the one giving the transmission, but on your reception of it. So in other words, you can energetically decode the pure intention and the connection given through the words spoken, and it translates so that it matches the frequency and the intention of what the word transmission was in your own thing. Now, you might say in your brain or out loud, oh, the word you used is X, and the way I hold that is X, Z word. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm tracking.
So one of the reasons that this is fun to play with, important to play with, is we're shifting and changing fully out of the fourth dimension. Most haven't been really in the third dimension, from the frequency for quite some time. And we're becoming more and more of the multidimensional galactic community. And these are, you could describe this is a tool that, although they probably wouldn't describe it, I'm trying to describe it in a way that backs it back down to a more, non-multidimensional thing. So it can be, I'm trying to translate it. So I'm trying to take kind of what it does and translate it back down. So
maybe that's why I'm having a bit of a time with that.
For me, everything has a frequency, right? We're transmitters, we're receivers. So to me, and this is what I'm discovering more and more, layers and how intricate it really is. When we communicate, we're broadcasting. And it's more than just the words. I mean, the words are very important because that's really how we're communicating. But underneath the words, or accompanying the words, or ensconcing the words, I don't know, however you wish to hold it, is the vibration or the energetic of the message itself.
Yes.
Now, if the message was delivered with the purest, highest vibrational state, that is the message, period. It can't be tampered with. It just is what it is. How someone reacts or interprets that, that's all on them, but the energetic is just what it is.
Right.
If the energetic is, so what I'm saying here is you could be saying very flowery, loving words that are ensconced in a very different energetic. And one of manipulation or deceit or any number of things that are incongruent with the flowery, lovely verbiage. So for me, I really pay attention to that energetic as well, because it's not only just the words that I am using. It is the energetic frequency which ensconces these words, accompanies them. Because the words are, it's just a tool, it's a color, it's a pen or a pencil. But the message, the energetic meat and potatoes is a frequency that can be interpreted in more than just by language.
Yes, absolutely.
So for me, it's of vital importance knowing that when I speak something, I am amplifying that message. And so for me, I want to safeguard at all times that anything I am verbalizing is in alignment with my own highest desire and speak from my soul essence with my open heart, because then I know that the frequencies present are the ones I wish to lead with in this moment of now. And so I'm taking great care to monitor my own internal frequencies so that what I am giving voice to is that which I wish to experience and create more of.
Yeah, it's like what we've talked about before, and I did a short little QP on it, that, words, why does it matter what you say or how you say it? Because they create matter. And this packet that came in is, it's almost, one way I think is helpful to describe it as a primer. So Lisa, you're good at reading energy. You're good at understanding that you're transmitting. And so this is a helpful tool for you to just play even further with.
Okay.
A lot of beings are not residing in the awareness and the frequency neighborhood of actually transmitting things way beyond their words, but that's what we use as words. So to play with it, to get more comfortable with it, to start to notice how it's really this, it's like having a magic paintbrush. It's like having, a magic, the picture that just came is a typewriter. And as you're flowing and creating these words and typing them, they actually have whole books within actual words and even letters of the word that then the other beings can, and those words translate. So you could write a word in English, right? When you're using this, this isn't accurate, but you could say a state of mind and intention, from a more physical, linear type of level, not multidimensional. You could say that the words that you choose and the energy behind them and your feeling of the words, your whole relationship, as a good way, with the word, right, can be put out there. And then in this magic typewriter, the other being can read the word, and if they speak another language, one you know about on this planet or something else. And if you're doing this, they can feel, read, understand, receive the transmission of the word, and on their typewriter, the mirroring typewriter, it'll come in, Greek or, Czechoslovakian, or whatever it is, right? So this is part of, but you don't pop up, to use the visual metaphor, you don't pop up the typewriter, you don't pop up the magic, paintbrush, calligraphy brush, right? Unless you have the intention. Now, this doesn't mean you have to hold, because as you play with it more, it will be more of an ease, more of a flow. And what happens actually is you start to notice that a word will come up. It's almost like an errant word. It'll feel in the stream that it's an errant word, or it's that's a program charged word that will flow in, or and there might be, like, if you ever use the paintbrush and you get a little bit of pigment of another color and that really wasn't the color you want, so that'll come in. So as you're aware of that, you can go, oh, okay, and you just take your blotting brush and you wipe that errant word off and you go back. Is that making a little bit more sense? The beauty of it is that we're all ready for this now. And the reason that this is, the reason that this packet of information came in, the reason that we're playing with this, the reason that the flow is right is because we've reached another critical mass point in the expansion level of the human collective, many others, but we'll just use that as one example, that this is now becoming more and more available to all, to more easily start to notice it and see it. And we are, because of that level, let's say, it's not an accurate word, but because of that, we are now having more information, more conversations, more connections coming in and meeting with us.
Yes.
Whether it's from a scene, David's photographs is an example of that connection, that communication, that intention, right? And so you could say, well, there's nobody there he's talking to. Okay, well, that's not actually the case, but in playing it with it this way, one, it's asking us to get out of the habit, to be completely unconscious with how we use words, choose words, flow with words, paint the words together. Painting a word picture, I like that phrase. It's something I like to do a lot because it's helpful, because encased in that word picture is an energetic frequency. And I can then use that to connect with different beings that speak different languages, and they could both be speaking English, or many of them could be speaking English, but they're not the same. It's not the same dialect of English. Does that make sense? So, but in that painting of that word picture, I'm using my magic paintbrush, my magic calligraphy brush, to do that, so that another way to say it is, I'm building a bridge that I meet them where they are, and I walk across and say, take my hand, let's go for a connection. And they can go back on the other side of the bridge if they want. They can flow back to where their neighborhood that they, more predominantly reside. But this is a way for them to have a comfort level and expansion level and a consciousness level and connection with this particular energetic envelope that you're creating. The other thing that I wanted to just insert here, because it keeps coming back around, is that you can do this. In fact, this is incredibly helpful and very fun to play with yourself. So, you know, the conversations and the way you choose your words. And one other thing that I wouldn't describe it, and I don't do it as a monitoring. I don't think, oh no, that's the wrong word. No, erase that. That's, you know, it's because it doesn't begin with the words. It begins with the intention and the energy flow. So, you know, my colors that I'm dipping my magic paintbrush in are already charged and are imbued with that more expanded consciousness and the different frequency hues that go with it. But like anything, when you're playing, if you can, hey, watch those people, you know, they're playing that game. Okay, that's interesting. You watch it, or you may go jump right on. Well, I want to play. What's he playing? I don't know, but I like to play, so I'm going to go do it. What kind of thing? So it's an awareness, and to go back to what I said at the beginning, that right now we're getting very tangible data feedback on how we're presently doing this in the energies, because, and this happens a lot, well, you can notice it anywhere, but when you're having a conversation with yourself, the intent, the frequency, the consciousness or unconsciousness of how you're choosing those words will come back, and you could say uplift you, float your boat. You know, you might realize all of a sudden that everything's very effervescent and expansive and wow, charged with really cool zinging. Look at that. You know, I'm manifesting, I'm materializing, I'm abundant, all that kind of stuff. Or it's biting you in the ass. I mean, oh, it's going to be another day, you know, this, or, oh, this is going to happen. And you don't have to wait but a nanosecond for what you just gave voice to and the intention you had behind it. Now, the intention oftentimes can be just unconsciousness, just roteness, just rutness, just laziness, you know, of not being present, of just, you know, this shit comes out of your mouth and you don't even thinking about it.
For me, that's the whole thing. I think you summed it up right there, BZ. To me, the magic ink that I'm dipping my quill into is that. It is the frequency that I am entertaining. And, you know, if I'm indiscriminating, then that is the magic that is leaving my mouth. Because every time I open my mouth, I'm creating.
Right.
And if I'm unconscious of where I'm dipping my pen and what ink I am using, then you can be certain that my world is going to reflect that. And my body and in my experience is going to reflect that. And you're right. These energies are amplifying very quickly. And the feedback is immediate. So if you are attentive to it, you know immediately what to adjust and how to move. And to me, that's a tremendous gift.
Yeah.
That feedback, that instant knowing of, you know, where is my quill? And you're right, you know that some of these word pictures, these words to, you know, a flowery word, a beautiful word is also a frequency vibration in and of itself. And so I like what you did there about choosing that to create that frequency. I had not thought of it in that way before, because I tap into the frequency and allow those things to flow. But you're right, you can go the other way, and you can actually, I guess, work yourself into the flow or build that word picture even for yourself, right? Because I've done that too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And also, you may not, the flow is always there.
Yes.
we don't always flow with it.
Right.
We have the most.
Sometimes I'm over here in this other flow.
We have the most amazing, streams of flow and color and frequency vibration that we could be dipping, our magic brush in. And for some reason we like this, kind of mud puddly with scrim on the top that we just, another way you can look at it is, well, actually, I gave you a good example of it when I first came in the room and just you were here, Lisa, and you asked me a question, and I just smiled and said, this is the best part, So, because I didn't give it any words, right? I could have had the labeling. I could have had explaining. I could have done all sorts of things. But then I'm going into a frequency that I don't choose to go into or re-experience or want to play with. So again, that's all, all of this, use the word consciousness and being conscious, and that's one of the headers. And then if you can play with that, that's a header on all the other conversation. So that's what made me think to bring that forward. Someone said, well, if I think it was two someones. One was talking about at work, and I have to do certain tasks and then explain certain things, and how can I use my words in this? Well, you can always use an expansive frequency and an expansive intention and consciousness in how you deliver whatever it is that's seems like ordinary words. You actually change the process and protocol. You actually change the whole mechanical structure that's going on within whatever you're doing in the business. It doesn't change the results, except that it makes them flow better. It's not like you're changing the recipe in a way that makes it not work right. The only thing that I might add to that is as you're doing this, you may get feedback that this is such a discordant energy for you. This is such a frequency kind of soup you visit that is such there is such a mismatch that that's something for you to look at. Is there more for you to integrate? Is there more for you to then focus on so that you materialize something different for you to work with? And in a lot of times you can absolutely change how you're doing something. If you're having a meeting and maybe there's a team that you work on, and you're having a meeting and you're trying to roll out some new thing, and you've got to work together with some people. And so, sometimes people get along or don't get along, or they just have a different style or whatever. And so there's words in all of that. And there's also intention behind that. And there is a way, it's not buttoning it down or keeping a lid on it, or, all those other kind of euphemisms, because that's bottling something up. That's going like this, and that's not expansive at all. So in that example of, you can, less is more. So use less words and be conscious and intentional with the words that you do use to convey the most expansive outcome that you and the group in what they're providing wants to reach. Mm-hmm. And then someone else asked, well, my family, I would love to do what you're saying, but my family, they're not awake or they don't understand. So again, that's a good example of, and I may get being on the noggin for this, but that's a good example of labeling and explaining in a way that's not expansive. They're beautiful beings. And do they use different words? Do they have different intention? Are they conscious or unconscious in how? Well, you're just describing that that's your feel of it. So how can you flow with that? Because we're meeting ourselves for the first time. So we've got to learn to do this just for right in our own neighborhood, right here. Never mind, out there. Never mind the whole galactic communities and all of that. So this really is about communicating as if for the very first time, because a lot of beings really don't communicate.
You're right.
They're not conscious about it. They don't do it consciously. And the videos playing in my head or in my video room right now are just wonderful, because it's almost like you can have a rush of coming attractions if you watch a TV show or something like that, right? So this is, well, there were a bunch of symbols of coming attraction, but there were also ones of like a clip of reruns of things that have happened. And when you play with this and are more intentional about it, it's like people connect with you more easily. You say, wow, you feel heard, you feel understood, you feel like at least there was some level where you were connecting. That doesn't say that everybody's saying, oh yeah, you're great, or you're right, or I'm giving up the way I used to say things. That's that's couldn't be further from the truth. But the feeling and the way that you move through, you really have to do this now. The way that you move through this process, okay, we'll get it, really helps you shift all of your connections with other beings, whether it's some being that you've known for a long, long time, or someone that you just see, every month or couple months, maybe quarterly at work, or just met today, kind of a thing.
Well, I understand exactly what you guys are saying. An experience that I shared with all of you, the two of you earlier, I'm a little bit more confused now, actually, than I was before. Partly because of what I felt within my own sphere. So, but part of this too, then, is for each. I'm being given to see in this moment of now. As each of us feel into, and I'll just speak for myself, as I feel into and figure out how to move through these energies and communicate with myself and others. Obviously there's going to be errors. I have a real tendency to open my mouth and just speak. And even though I have really been working on a lot of different things, there are still a lot of things in there that are still grooves or whatever, obviously. And there's physical sensations that go along with some of what you're describing here, that are also a bit confusing in this moment of now for me. Just, again, coming off of this pretty huge experience, it's actually spanned 2 days, culminating in that bigger experience today. And so it is new ground for me, and I'm sure it will be for a lot of others, as these energies are quick to point out a lot of right where you are.
Yeah.
And just wait a minute now.
And they'll amp up a second again.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to say with what you just said, Sheila, you talked about the physical things. So,
well, and it can be a bit confusing. That's why I brought that up.
Yeah, well, but I mean, so sometimes you have, I'm not talking about energy. I'm just talking, come home and you have you're sore someplace, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe you go to a masseur or something and they're working on you and you say, oh yeah, over here, this really hurts, right? Or something. And so then they're working on you and they're spending a lot of time on another part of your body. You're like, no, man, right here is where it hurts. And they're like, yes, I know, I'm fixing it. And you're like, no, here, right, on the left side of me, and you're on the right side of me. Hello? And then they finish, and you relax and stop with the words, and you're like, wow, that feels better. And you never went on this side. Because because your whole body is connected and it's not in isolation of anything else. And so you may start holding something to, kind of corner something or favor something, or, there's lots of different ways, and it presents in something over here. So similar to saying that the physical things were confusing, one might think, okay, well, why is that really, if you think about that part of the body, and is there an energetic frequency about that, or is there a chakra related to that, or this and the other thing? And somehow that doesn't seem to kind of match with what's going on, and you're realizing is maybe where you were integrating something or stuck on something. But again, if you use that same kind of thought, that there is the flow and there is connected, and maybe it's on a different, instead of on the electromagnetic system, it's the endocrine system, or it's different parts within that actually flow with that. So there's different ways you can look at it. You can go to someone who helps you, or you can, the best for me is where you feel into that, play with that a lot yourself. Play with someone else maybe, or ask questions, or read something, or watch something, but you're the expert. I mean, you absolutely are the expert for you. And so that can help you. That's one thing I wanted to say on the feeling of it. The other thing is that, see if I can pull it back. The energies are such, they just are what they are, and they're going to get, more of what they were, and or something new, just wait. And
just around the corner.
Yeah. Well, and, and then you can look at placeholders for other things. So you mentioned the different things that are going on right now, right? With the solar flares and the eclipse, right? And then we've got a lunar one, I think it's the 20th, 21st.
Yeah, the 21st.
Yeah. So, you could look at that and so that's heightened, but used to be, a while ago now, that you could see these or might hear talk about these things coming, and you think, okay, so the big waves coming in, and then this crest, and then the big wave, and then, okay, then it's going to leave me alone. So, But again, so how one uses one's words and their intention, again, with just themselves in describing something like this time frame will help shift a lot.
That's going to continue to go off until I shut it off. So I need to pause the recording for a moment.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for that. I had to go get my phone and stop it because I've got it set to remind me if I get a text. So I'm sorry, BZ. Can you remember where you were?
I think I was talking about you know, the different windows of things going on that are, there can be stargates, they can be portals of energy, they can be currents, you know, you can, depending on how the again, the language that someone is using, how to describe it, whether it's astrological or, you know, all different things. And the reason I pointed that out is that it used to be, well, you know, this is this thing happening, you'll feel a rise and maybe a little bit of a dip and then a rise again, and then it'll go back to normal. And, you know, that could be accurate now, except that normal isn't, you know, the rise and this and then down here, you know, normal is, you know.
Yeah, there's a new normal.
Keep expanding. Yeah, the new normal is changing every moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all good. It's all expansive. It's all, you know, again, if you think of the most delicious thing that comes to mind in a moment, and then more expansive view of that most delicious thing, or another most delicious thing, or the vantage point, the vista that opened up for you of that delicious thing, you go, wow. And, you know, it sparks inspiration, it sparks imagination, it sparks, you know, a desire, whatever it is. So they keep going. Now, in some of those moments where it truly is a most delicious thing, because the consciousness is expanding, because you are integrating, because your vibrational frequency is expanding and leveling up, the colors and the capacity of your bandwidth to be a conduit for all this is, wow, getting, you know, more wow all the time, right? That's not to say that in the same moment you may feel, you know, ow, or have a lot of emotion that you may not describe as pretty and stuff. And so you may start to, we're talking about, you know, label and use your words. So that's when you can shift your words, because that will shift the feeling that you're having. So this is there's many different, if you think of this as a tool that you can play with, there's many different ways that you can then use this tool to enrich and enhance all of your being in the myriad of ways that you are being and interacting. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is it at all possible, because now we've used the words tool and play with, so can you give an example, BZ? Because sure. I can think of at least one being that watches us regularly that will be asking for an example of use of this tool.
Okay. So one thing may be if just around this new thing to play with, I kind of understand it. It kind of sounds fun. I kind of get the word picture BZ's painting, but I don't know how to do it, or I'm not there, or I can't get it right, or where's the, you know, someone has to show me. So right there, those are common refrains that come within the being to many beings, or a close iteration thereof. Those hold a frequency. Those usually come up completely unconsciously, completely in a way without intention. And
I just saw something.
yeah.
I just saw something. This is partly what we did another video on that, on this specifically, I think. Oh, and just that quickly it went away. Damn.
So I don't look at it as monitoring, because to me that's constrictive, and I'm like the hall monitor, and you know, that we don't allow that language here, you know, because I lived that way for a long time. I don't need to.
So you're speaking, when you say that, you're speaking in terms of like, because I've heard things like, well, I don't use any negative speech with myself. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
I've heard that sort of is something that folks practice, right? And so this is what
yes,
you're
and play with,
about.
yeah. So
Right.
if a thought comes through, and or you're that's being conscious. So an example, if to use those things I gave, you know, well, just even on the thought of, well, how do you do this? So, I mean, we're playing with this, so let's play with what comes up, right? And if those are the things that come up, then stop yourself for a moment, because they've come up within you. They, an aspect of you generated that and had an intention around that. And there's a frequency to that. So are you even realizing, you know, what just came up and said? That's why it's helpful when, you know, to have these conversations with yourself. You may write them down. You may speak them out loud. You may do them so that you can actually, when you give voice to something and you give voice to it, so it's audible, right? The frequency, you're toning it.
Right.
And in the act of toning it, you can hear, depending on how you process the frequencies and the information, you may see things with it, right? You may you may experience it in a way that you might describe as different, or includes more than just, you know, there's a sound out there, oh, it sounds like my voice and my ears are hearing it. Because actually hearing doesn't work in strictly that linear way, but that's a whole other thing. So in noticing it, if you're doing that, if you can right then and there say, am I intentionally saying that? Do I choose to intentionally say that? What's the feeling of what I'm noticing, hearing, when I experience my own toning with myself on this? Is that what I choose? Do I feel that the toning of that, the frequency of that, what I just gave voice to, is a match to my desire to, hey, that sounds interesting, I want to learn to do that? Or is that, you know, kind of constrictive and pulling me away from that because I'm less than and I'm missing some things that don't have that? Is it even mine? Whose, you know, whose voice is that? Is a lot of times the phrase that I used to use with beings in connection with, or with my coaching class and stuff. Whose voice is that? So that could be a program, that could be something that's, that, you know, we might hear from other teacher, parent, family, whatever it is, right? That's, you know, oh, you can't do, you got to be related, whatever it is, right? So everybody has their own kind of things. But just in being conscious of that, and if it's reflective of what you open-heartedly choose to be going in the frequency of, in the direction of, and materializing for yourself, well, cool, then you're a match. If you're realizing that, no, there's a discordant disconnect here, Okay, cool. There's more to play with. Both of those things I just described gives you lots to play with. The first one, you're off and running and you're playing, and now you can see and things light up, and you can set up the playing where you put more open-heartedness, more consciousness about it, more, vim and vigor and zing and colors to it, and you watch what materializes, because we're here now, baby, and these things, you don't have to wait but a moment. And another way I described it, if there is that mismatch, that discordance, that, where there is a mismatch, a misconnection, and you're not in alignment with those two things, are not in alignment, and you're not choosing that, okay, well, you're the expert and you're giving voice to it. So, you could look all around and go, well, it's their fault, but you're right here. So those would be two examples. As I can go into more specifics, but those would be good examples of how to play with it. If someone asked you how your day was, and you had a corker of a day, and it was kind of a moldy quirk, and all that. Again, you can intentionally choose how to give voice to that. You can smile and say, I love you. You can smile and say, how was your day? You could smile and say, hey, it's getting really great right now. You can choose to, give a litany of how the day went, and that's a choice. And that's an intentional choice. And there's an intention behind those words. There's a frequency behind those words. As you tone those things, you not only go back into each of those energetic envelopes that you have now given the litany of, but you have, wait for it, anchored those frequencies in, not only in this new energetic envelope that you're in now, but in other parts of your bodies. You just made more work for yourself. Less is more, right? So say, I'm fantastic. And then you move on, or smile, or take a deep breath, or close your eyes and go, whatever that it works for you. In what I'm talking about, if the day was, not the best day, or the day is done and it was great, and you had lots of opportunity to integrate stuff and integrate all over the place, and cool, next. Now, if your day was really great, or there was a moment in the day that was really great, again, the same thing is in intention. You could say, well, wow, boy, at 10 o'clock, I had the most amazing experience, and the rest of the day sucked. Okay, that's an intentional choice. That's a frequency. So you have negated a lot of the magical part that happened at 10, and right? So those are just some examples. If you want to have more magic, if you want to have more ease, if you want to have more abundance, if you want to have more effortlessness, whatever the words that you would use, they're your words, that I want to have X, Y, and Z. I want a tool. Oh, hey, tools. I like tools. Cool. How do I do this? To do X. And in this second example I gave, well, the first one too, but the second example I gave, where there was one part that was really cool and the rest was this, and you, again, focused on that wasn't the cool part, or the magical part, or whatever it is, your word is. There's an incongruency, because in focusing on that, instead of what the magical part was, especially if you were saying that you want those, I gave some examples, more effortlessness, more abundance, more flow, more ease, more magic, whatever it is, and you're toning, giving voice to, and materializing, because what you say matters, then you have just disrespected yourself. and completely disavowed what you said, what you gave voice to, that was your intention to have. So that's a good example of that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to make sure because you're good at giving those good examples. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I know now it came back what I was trying to say before.
Okay.
It was in terms of because we are source, it's all there anyway. So not thinking that it is or whatever is just playing small, I guess.
Yeah, well, again, it's a
not a guess, I know.
It's diametrically opposed to the truth of who you are, to if you're holding that what you want to experience is more expansive, then it's diametrically opposed to it. If you aren't holding that you like being small, you like the way that have control, you control things or you constrain things, then that's great, because again, you're at choice. One is not better or worse than the other. They're both marvelous depending on who's choosing them. The choppy waters come when your intention, you're giving voice to, your words are, I'm just going to use hand directions, are one thing, and all of the other frequency and what you actually comes out of your mouth and you tone with yourself or you tone with others, right? Are diametrically opposed, are incongruent with each other. So you can put your hands wherever you want, wherever you're standing, whatever you choose is cool. So if you're choosing that you like being small and you like to think, but you keep going off on these other things and you're thinking, well, damn it, I'm being fantastical again. Damn it, I'm being airy-fairy. Damn it, I have to focus. I like this over here. Great, then quit doing this. Because you're dishonoring yourself. Because you've given voice to, and you say you're choosing this, and you're right. Now some people might go, well, why would they choose? It's not a right choice or a wrong choice. None of this is. For you, for each individual being, you are the genesis. You are a choice. Are you consciously being and doing within that choice? That's what the real question is. That's where this tool that your words transmit, more than just these things, it changes everything.
Yeah, there's a big assumption, I think, on the part of a lot of folks that one way is right and the other way is wrong or something. And I know that that's based, of course, on the way we've looked at our co-creative collective reality, with duality, right, wrong, good, bad, up, down, left, right, all those sorts of things. But that's not the case at all.
Well, so here's another way to explain it. If you're service to others, and that's the frequency that you want to have polarized within you. So you want to hold within you. You want to expand within you. Okay. Then going to a higher and higher and higher vibrational frequency, a more and more and more expansive, higher field of consciousness, that's a match. If you are a service to self and you want to polarize in that way, which, let me see how I can figure out a way to move my hands. So if this is the pinnacle for the service to others, let's say, right? And this is the pinnacle for the service of self. Yeah, they're in seemingly opposite directions, but they're not. For the choice and the energy frequency, this is the highest high for the service to self, just like this would be the highest high for the service to others. Does that make sense? They're both beautiful and perfect for the choice of the frequency that being at this moment is intentionally choosing to reside and expand in. Now, may one being in the service to self say, I don't want that. Yeah, I don't like that energy. It's uncomfortable. I get, right? And the other one may be saying the same thing. Great. Because where we are right now, right? We're no longer, those who are service to others are no longer fully ensconced in the machinery, because it has been that, the frequencies, and the grip would be another linear placeholder word to describe it, of that tractor beam of the service to others to keep the service to self, to keep the service to others from expanding, from moving to, in this direction. So those actual tractor beams, those actual machines that are on different quote unquote planetary bodies that are, if you're standing on this blue planet and you look out there, you may have names for them, but they are different than what you think and what you've been taught that they are. And so I'm talking about actual machinery. I'm talking about actual, of a fashion, electronics. I'm also talking about energetic things. I'm talking about frequency codes and stuff as well. So, but I'm not describing that so that I can make a judgment and that anybody in this hand is like worthless and anybody in this hand is, oh yeah, now they got it all going on. What I choose is what I choose. And it's spectacular for me. And what someone else chooses is what they choose. And my words transmit more than just those things. It's a whole frequency that enhances my neighborhood, that helps me expand my neighborhood for my choice of neighborhood.
What feels to be coming increasingly clear for myself in regards to all of this is it is just what you said about being conscious of what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
Because even when one really thinks they're being conscious about their words that they're transmitting, one can find that they weren't as conscious as they thought they were.
Yeah.
I speak from personal experience. I speak from personal experience because there's still, attachments to things. There are still, this is why like I've said, about moving towards only that which makes your heart sing. It's the same kind of thing for me, in that there's that epiphany is the same that I had about that. It feels the same here for me. Mm-hmm. There is in an attachment or anything, there's an underlying frequency that if you're not conscious of the attachment, that happened to me. That happened to me just today. We were talking about this before. So now I feel within my whole being that I was able to shift that, to use Lisa's terminology from earlier, as quickly as I did, because I am ruthlessly looking at everything, and this was a very visceral reaction, so it was hard for me to miss, but I think I've set that up on purpose for myself.
And
but
playing,
it's that
with it takes
consciousness that
practice.
you were talking about it. Yes. But it is that consciousness that you're talking about that's the most important piece of that.
Yeah.
Because even though I thought I was being conscious, even though I thought I wasn't as conscious as I would like. Now
and hence playing with it, because if you're playing with it, right, you're not attached to, okay, I got to get here today and there, right? So you're playing with it. So you're softer. I mean, you can play down and dirty and have fun. And, you know, you did, like I said, you came out of a rugby match and your shirt's torn and, man, that was fun, you know, right? And you go sit down at the table and everybody has.
Yeah, but you gotta have teammates that are on board with that. Believe you me. And I am so lucky to have some teammates that are on board with them.
I'll give you an example. I have to do it in a vague way because of my constraints. But so in a work situation, there are some things that are unfolding that I'm fully conscious about, and fully conscious how much I want to give voice to, play in certain areas of it. And that's from my being fierce about you know, which hand I'm on and what my intention is, which frequency and position I hold. And then in every moment, doing what I choose to do in a way that brings me even more and more in alignment with that fierceness for that being conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At the same time, I'm citing an example in a very linear setting of a job with a number of parties that are pretty unconscious about all sorts of things, you know. And you said, well, that depends about the team who's playing that. So there's players on the field of the team. Well, so there's players on the field of this team, you know, team sport that we're playing. And to have better games, to have better passes, to have, you know, using all different metaphors in a team and a game, right? In this situation of a job, there are things that come up where things are given voice to, and I have to then see, is there a way that I can navigate in such a way that absolutely stays and honors and is in integrity to my fierce holding of that expansion and absolute love, right? And can be in a way that flows for, support of the whole team, but in particular the support of some players on the team that are more conscious, that are starting to realize their own choices within themselves and flow with that. Sometimes the answer is no. And they're not missing anything. And, you know, they got it all going on. When they get conscious about it, they'll go, hey, wow, you know. Sometimes the answer is yes. And there is more perceived in a moment difficulty for me, which really the way I read it is then integration. Because if there's perceived difficulty, if there's perceived drain or something like that, then that's actually a way. It's tiring, it's hard, it's frustrating. Yeah, okay. But it's also another form, moment, kind of a, if I'm doing stair steps of integration. So it's celebration because, yeah, I'm worn out, or yeah, I'm whatever it is that may not be, perceived as a good expansive word, but it actually now has come around so that, yes, it's for this team, because I did the integration, because I didn't run and hide the other way, because I didn't go down the other way and get snappish or whatever else it is, right? I won for me, and I helped move the ball down the field for the whole team. Some may never see that, but some of the players will. That's about as concrete as I can get. I need to be vague, but again, that's all a choice. And again, to further that honoring, when I have a situation like that, or when there are moments, then I do what I know I need. I need quiet, or I need to go hug a tree, or I need to just sit down and pet the cat, or Keegan, or I need to just kind of putter in something that's creative, although it's more just kind of free form thought puttering, because it's a way that it's almost like opening up all the windows in your house or your room, that lets all that light and fresh air back in, and equalizes the things. But I know exactly how. Ask me how I know. I know exactly how I can navigate these things, and how long I can stay in different things, how much I can play on the field, how much time in the actual game I can play. At a moment, is it a quarter of an inning, a half an inning, 5 innings, right? Whatever it is, depending on what other team players are on the field at the same time, and I can also look at, are there other ways that I can do it where I can be, part of the team, because sometimes part of the team, not all players are on the field. There might be, the water boy, or getting the team, or the coaching, or whatever, right? So you're in different aspects of the teamness and the play that's going on. But I know that, and I adhere to that, and I get feedback instantaneously in either direction if I stayed on the field too long, or if I played just the amount in just the right position at that moment, and it's like the whole stadium is doing the wave, celebrating around the last play. But being aware, being conscious of it, and then doing it consciously, and playing as you're becoming conscious of it, and doing it consciously, are two things that are integral, that are a balance, that are the in-breath and the out-breath at the same time. So from a very linear perspective, you could say, without the two together, that doesn't work.
Yeah, no, not so much. Like I said, even when you think you're conscious,
right?
So, yeah, no,
or the play, just the playing, is it because it has more of that. You've left the judgment and the conscripting of different things on the sidelines, because you're in the game. You got your consciousness in the game. Your heart is in the game.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter that the other players aren't, honestly.
No.
Because for most of my life, Sheila, the other players aren't.
Right.
And mostly, either was I for the great deal of the time. So I got a lot of compassion for folks because I know.
And that's where your expertness for you yourself comes in, and that consciousness comes in, because you are the only one who knows, and you will illuminate the consciousness feeling of all that to more and more and more and more and more as you go, right? Because it all begets more of that.
Yeah.
So for one being to try to do things and play at the fierceness or dive into things that, you know, are integration opportunities at the level that I do at that moment, maybe that's it, that's all you got. Or it may be, well, I'm not going in there, you know. So it depends. And that's why everyone is in, and it may be for, so you could use the same individuals, right? I just kind of talked about 3, and a slightly different thing, and you could have the reverse. So the one who said, that's all you guys going, are we there yet? You know, and right? So it's again, becoming conscious. So when becoming conscious on all different levels, and
okay.
all right.
There you go.
And all different aspects. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
She's gonna do it again. She's froze.
You're talking, and then all of a sudden, I got white screen. Nothing. And we're still recording on my end. I hope you are too. Oh my! Did I leave? Because we were all gone. Just me.
Yep. And your audio and video is all frozen and robo-y. So I think that concludes this consciousness expansion envelope. We've about blown the circuits for this one.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I you know, we as we kind of indicated, I've had a very large day, and so I don't know if that's because, as we've said before, Lisa and I are on the same internet connection. So why mine is all whacked up.
There's no linear explanation for it. No.
Yeah, there's not. So would either one of you like to attempt to try to say something else?
Just thanks for playing. Come back soon.
Well, you know, pick up your magic paintbrush. Magic
there you go.
Because there's such riches. I mean, you will discover things that you don't have to have anybody else come near you, do anything with you, just in yourself. You will discover
I would advise that.
You'll discover when you encounter others after you're discovering your paintbrush that, wow, they learn to speak. We can communicate now. They're, you know, it's very cool.
Yeah,
and it's essential.
I would definitely say try it with yourself first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, thank you both so much. This is one I definitely feel the need to go back and watch later. Maybe not tomorrow, but I will be doing it very soon.
Okay.
So we will have everyone's contact information in the body of this video, like we always do. And if you have any comments or questions you want to reach out to any of us, please do. And until next time.
Much love.